You're out there and just see the beautiful Irish flag and you see the sweet, sultry tones of Bing Crosby. And you say, man, today's a good day to be Mexican. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Unbelievable, the podcast where I, Luis Mejia, and my good friend Kurt Danner get together and lie to each other about some incredible moments in history. But today is a very special episode. We are recording for the first time in the same room. Hello, Kurt.
Ooh, we're here together.
We are finally somehow reunited, and it feels pretty good.
The band's back together.
Yeah, the band is back together after, well, almost a year of not seeing each other.
The restraining order is lifted.
Finally, and I get to...
Both of us have lifted the restraining orders against
on
each
one
other.
another, yeah, and I finally got to look at his soft blue eyes.
Oh, you're so sweet. And I get to see your nice... barely there mustache.
You know, it's a something not many people get to do, Kurt. So I'm glad that you're one of them. Now, we say this is a very special episode because if you've been listening to this podcast, you know that we like to lie to one another and we like to make the other one suffer in determining which story is true or not.
This friendship is mostly based on emotional manipulation.
Exactly. The fact that we've remained friends for this long is pretty stellar. But today's different. Today's very special. Since we're together, we just want to chat. We don't want to make each other suffer for once. Crazy. But what we're going to do is we are going to, instead of lying to one another, we just found some of the most incredible stories from history, and we're going to share them with one another. And the reason we chose these specific stories has a purpose behind it. Now, I know it may not seem like it, but Kurt and I prepare plenty for this podcast before we record. What do? We choose a couple stories, we send them to each other, we send like a headline, if you will, and we say, okay, I'm sending you a false and a real story, and if either of us have heard tangentially about something we have told one another, we scrap it. We're trying to go in as blind as possible before we start researching, just so that there's a good chance that one story may be real and one story may be fake. So if we send two stories and the other person has heard it, well, less chances of us lying to each other. And where's the fun if we're not going to make each other suffer? So some of these are what we like to call history rejects, I guess you could say.
They're from the archives, the lost texts.
Exactly.
Of the Unbelievable podcast.
Exactly. These are the lost texts. So we're together. We've primed ourselves listening to some country and mariachi music. And we're, getting together, having a couple drinks and, well, telling some fun stories about history. Imagine you are sitting in a couch with us while we're talking this, because this is essentially what us living together for several years was like. So, before further ado, without more further ado,
there's been an adequate amount of ado.
an adequate amount of ado. I am Emmy Award winner Luis Mejia, joined here by Emmy Award watcher Kurt Danner. Let's get to some history, Kurt.
Let's do it.
All right, Kurt, what do you got for me?
So, the first story I have for you, Luis, is, as you may already know, I think this is one that we discussed before we ever started this podcast, so I knew that you already knew it.
I think so.
I'm going to tell you the story of how, for a few brief, glorious years, Pepsi had the world's sixth largest navy.
Incredible.
So this starts in 1959. This is during the Cold War era. Vice President Nixon and Soviet Premier Nikita Khrushchev were meeting to discuss missile disarmament. Also at this meeting was the head of Pepsi International, Donald Kendall.
All the essentials were there at that
all
meeting.
the stars.
Who do you need? USA, Russia, Pepsi.
The three world powers.
Really?
So Donald Kendall offers the two men some Pepsi, kind of as an icebreaker, which it seems very strange that the meeting is for them to discuss missile disarmament. But from the stuff I read, it seems more like they were just kind of trying to flex on each other about whose economy is better. And then this guy just shows up with a couple paper cups and is like, "You guys want some Pepsi?"
Mr. Khrushchev, quench that thirst.
There it is. Well, he did, apparently. It really worked because he really loved Pepsi, so much so that he went through a lot of lengths to form an agreement with Kendall to get Pepsi shipped to the Soviet Union. And this took a lot of work because a big problem with this is that during the Cold War, the Soviet ruble was pretty much worthless outside of the USSR. So the Soviet Union can't pay for the Pepsi in paper money. Instead, they have this trade agreement where the Soviet Union will send shipments of vodka in exchange for the Pepsi.
Nice.
This worked until 1980. In 1980, the Soviets invaded Afghanistan, and it led to this big American boycott of Soviet products. So now Pepsi has all this Soviet vodka that no one wants to buy. They can't really sell it. So they think it's not really worth it for us to do this anymore. So they call the deal off. But at this point, it's been 21 years. So the Soviets really, really like Pepsi at this point, and they want to figure out some sort of alternative deal. They'll get this Pepsi by any means. Okay.
Do you think this is around the time of New Coke? While the U.S. was freaking out about New Coke and the new flavors of Coke, Russia's like, I don't know what you guys are freaking out. Look what the West is freaking out about. They're worrying about their new Coke. And what do we have here? Pepsi, the pride of the motherland.
There's been so many like subgenres of Pepsi and Coke. Like was it Clear Pepsi or Clear Coke?
Yeah.
What was that about?
Crystal Pepsi.
Like, oh, you guys like this? Wait till you see it in a different color.
I mean, granted, Kurt, you know my favorite soda is Cherry Coke Zero. So
oh, that's true.
I can't move away from my I understand
The
these
old
gimmick
flame,
drinks.
Coke
Yeah,
Zero.
my old flame Coke Cherry Zero, which is not something you can get back in Mexico. So some would say I came here to the United States to get my fix. But
maybe you should take some notes on what the Soviets do, so you can get some Cherry Coke Zero shipped to you.
Oh, you're so right.
How many battleships do you have, Luis, on hand?
I think we're getting ahead of ourselves, Kurt.
We are getting ahead of ourselves. So the vodka's not working out anymore. So 1989. By 1989 they have a new deal that they've formed. Pepsi will send shipments to the USSR in exchange for a Soviet cruiser, frigate, a destroyer, 17 submarines, and a few oil tankers. So this absolute fleet of ships instantly makes Pepsi Company the 6th largest navy in the world.
I love that the initial meeting of this was nuclear disarmament or missile disarmament, and they said, okay, we can't do that. You know what we can do? Give you more weapons. And in exchange, Pepsi.
Most of the ships are pretty run down. There's a lot of accounts of that they're kind of barely afloat. So there's no real power behind Pepsi's navy. But just as an idea, it's pretty wild. They docked the boats in the Carolinas for several years, but ultimately they just sell them for scrap metal because it would cost more to repair them and resell them than it would to just take the parts off them. Here's a little fun detail. So the Pentagon, probably understandably, was not super excited about a private company having the world's 6th largest navy, especially when they got it from the Soviets. So they called Donald Kendall in and kind of reprimand him, give him a little slap on the wrist.
Nice.
But he goes, I'm disarming the Soviet Union a lot faster than you guys are. Maybe you should be giving me an award.
That's true. That's true. Pepsi is coming in with the steel. Maybe if we should have given total control to Coke and Pepsi during the Cold War.
They're playing the long game. They're going to wait. Once the Soviet Union runs out of battleships, then they'll start asking for nuclear weapons.
I feel like of all the sodas, the fact that Pepsi got in to Russia.
Yeah, well, Pepsi is the most scary dystopian giant conglomerate company of the sodas,
so.
right? If it was Dr. Pepper, you'd be like, yeah, let him have a navy.
But here's the
Come
thing.
on.
Coca-Cola is the most American thing you can...
That's true.
Like one of the most American brands, right?
That's
so
true.
you think that's one of the main reasons why Russia said, we're not going to deal with Coca-Cola. We're going to go with Pepsi because if anything, yeah, Coca-Cola may be painted red, but sure ain't communist, Is this a move to move Pepsi from blue to red?
I don't know. Yeah, where they like were backing Pepsi as like just in case.
Listening, we're thinking of this as I think in the short term because I'm thinking of this and just I feel like the USSR had to have a bigger purpose about just getting Pepsi. Like I'm from a country where we would do crazy decisions like this of just we love Pepsi, let's take it. But I feel like this is a time where Russia would just say, hey, don't tell anyone. But secretly, Pepsi is going to rule the world, and we're going to make sure it does.
There's so many fun, like ridiculous ideas that world militaries had during the Cold War. There's certainly some of them are going to make it into our podcast at some point. But is that they all kind of had this idea that like no idea is too crazy to try because if we decide it's too crazy to try and then someone else tries it and it works, then we've played ourselves.
Yeah, right.
So there's even I think a lot of stuff of like different secret military organizations seeing if they could just like focus really hard and use mind control. But so point being, it's not impossible that the Soviet Union is like maybe big picture we get Pepsi to overthrow the U.S. government.
Listen, sometimes you just need a good thirst quencher. I like to think So I'm looking up right now when Pepsi was founded, right? It was founded around 1893, according to Wikipedia. It was named then Brad's Drink.
Brad's
Drink. It was made by a guy named Caleb.
Oh, wow. That's the biggest plot twist of all, really.
It really is. However, I knew it was named Pepsi after dyspepsia, which is known as like indigestion. So that's why it's just Pepsi. So it was used as a medical treatment, just like Coca-Cola was also used as a medical treatment. So I just imagine this man in 1893 that invented this magic relief for indigestion, just grab him from wherever he is, North Carolina, I don't know, and put him in front of these warships and say, these belong to Brad's Drink.
Little Domino, some guy named Caleb invented some liquid Tums. Big Domino, 6th largest navy in the world.
Exactly. Oh man, this is wonderful.
Yeah. So there's a little thing on the end of this. After they deal with all the naval ships, they renewed it for the next 10 years for the Soviet Union to now actually build several oil tankers to send to Pepsi in exchange for more soda. But this got interrupted by the fall of the Soviet Union. But I think it's interesting that even though this idea sounds insane, right? The Soviet Union was just like, okay, so we fine-tuned a little bit. No more destroyers, but more oil tankers. They were fully ready to continue giving boats to Pepsi in exchange for soda for as long as it took.
I think a mistake from history that we unfortunately avoided. I say keep giving ships to Pepsi. I want Pepsi to overthrow a small country.
Okay. Comedically, yeah, I'd love to see Pepsi have a world-class military. Real world, please don't give any weapons or battleships to any major company.
Any private company. We've seen how bad it's gone with mercenaries.
Yeah.
Oh,
I like that the Soviet Union, they seem like they're like just itching to get their Pepsi fix. Like, you know, they're out of money to go out and get their re-up, so they're just like finding stuff around the house that they can pawn off really quick to get their Pepsi. There's like, we got these 17 submarines laying around. We can get them out.
I don't know. I've got 20 rubles, 3 cigarettes, and 4 warships. What else do you want?
Get your grandmother's engagement ring. Go pawn it with some battleships to get some Pepsi. So that is the story of how Pepsi briefly was a world superpower.
That's incredible.
Luis, what have you got for me?
I've got a story for you, Curtis. I think I've told you this. As we said, some of these stories that we told each other while living together is what gave this podcast its inception, right? It's what sparked this interest, and this is one of those stories. Kurt, I have told you about the papal testicle chair.
You have mentioned it before. You know, Luis, I realize you have like 2 main areas of expertise, and it is history of the Mexican Empire and weird details about the Pope.
that Venn diagram is the most specific Venn diagram ever.
Right in the middle of that, Luis's knowledge.
I mean, I feel like you can find a nice parallel to any story if you talk about the Mexican Empire or the Pope.
That's true.
You know. Anyway, the Pope story that I want to tell you tonight, Kurt, I've told you about this. It's the Estercoraria chair.
Oh, it sounds so classy.
Also known as the Sedia Estercoraria.
Also sounds classy.
So there is a tradition, some could call it a Vatican secret. Whenever they elect a new pope, before they bring the pope out to see the world, they parade this new person on a chair.
Okay.
To show off to all the cardinals and all the deacons in Vatican City. And one of the traditions that is supposedly been going on for years is the Sedia Estercoraria, which is a new person is crowned pope. Very exciting. Right? Very exciting. Right. And this new pope, supposedly, goes and sits in a chair in the middle of all the cardinals and the deacons. And this chair is a bit of a special chair because right on the seat, it doesn't have one. Let's just say it's a bit of a toilet seat chair.
Convertible, open air.
Yeah, open air. You can go crazy. But what does this chair do? Supposedly, the Vatican secret tells us that the Pope sits in the chair, the deacons and the cardinals race up the chair, and a main deacon, a main cardinal, goes under it to verify that the newly elected Pope has male attributes. The male reproductive organ. And once this happens, everyone is there. Like the whole gang is there.
Right.
The whole church choir even is there to witness this. But of course, this is inner circle, right? And this deacon looks under there and says the phrase, allegedly, says the phrase in Latin, testes abet et bene pendentes, which roughly translates to, there are testicles and they hang well. To which the rest of the people in the ceremony respond with, Deo gratias. Thank God.
I can't believe it's still a call and response.
Listen, I mean, this is just ridiculous enough where I don't know if I picture Pope Francis doing this, because the Pope, I mean, of course, maybe the Pope was young for a while, but the Pope is typically a 40-year-old man.
Right.
So you just have this chair to verify this man's got balls.
So is it just one person that looks?
Yeah, it's one of the main deacons. The deacon puts his hand under the chair and verifies that.
Oh, he feels.
Yeah, he gets under there.
Oh, wow, that's
and
personal.
he makes sure that he has testicles.
Then he says cough.
And he turn to the left, please. And,
Yeah.
And yeah.
I didn't know all the details. I thought before that it was like everybody has to check, and I was picturing that they make like one of those tunnels where everyone puts their arms up, like the London Bridge thing, and you like run through it, and in the middle there's like some old man ball sack, and then you're like, yeah, we got a Pope.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Kurt, because they actually do have something like this. It's not a tunnel, but it's a raised platform. So someone confirms that the Pope has balls and says the Pope has testicles and they hang well. Everyone responds, thank God. Mm-hmm. And now there's a bit of a procession underneath this raised platform to confirm, to verify that indeed balls are to be had.
Okay, so more people get to take a look.
Oh no, the whole crowd gets to see it. But this, while crazy and unverifiable right now, if the recent modern popes do this, the reason this happens is because historians claim that a long time ago, in the 9th century, so that's 800s, there's a legend that a woman named Joanna, if you will, was named to occupy the throne of St. Peter.
But how can she? She doesn't have dangly old man
so
balls.
she supposedly became pope for a while.
Okay.
For a little bit, and once when she was giving a procession across the city, she went into labor.
Oh.
And well, of course, this was a bit of an embarrassing blow to the papacy, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say the Catholic Church probably not super happy about that.
Right. So and eventually, to try to get rid of this, the deacons, the papacy, the Vatican decided we are going to avoid this as much as possible, and had started doing this ritual. Now, some historians claim this ritual never happened. However, there are chairs that have holes in them that are known not to be toilets.
Okay.
Right? So and some Vatican whistleblowers have said that yes, indeed, this has happened before. So this is in the place where it's so close to being true, and there's a big chance of being true, but it's not totally false, because I think with the papacy's inclination and just obsession with masculine heirs, I mean it makes
it's
sense.
Not completely confirmed, but there is evidence to support the claim.
I mean, the Vatican is, I think, the only country on earth where all the population is male.
Oh, that's interesting. I'd never thought about that before.
It's the only country, one of the only countries with an absolute monarchy, and second, the only country with only male population.
Right.
And let me show you. This is a picture of an alleged artifact remaining of this chair.
Yeah, just show me the chair. I don't need to see the testicles.
Yeah,
cool. Oh, it's a lot less glamorous than
Yeah,
I was thinking. It really does look like an old-fashioned toilet.
Yeah, describe the chair, please. Kurt.
It's a wooden chair. There's no cushion. And then it has a hole cut in the center, but it also has like a line cut out going from the hole to the front of it. So it's just if you took a chair and then cut out the whole middle part of it, basically. It looks actually like it would be pretty tenuous to balance on without falling in a little bit.
I guess so, but yeah, that's supposedly the chair, the sedia estercolaria, the chair to verify that the Pope indeed has testicles and that they hang well, which is a weird thing to add at the end. It's like, don't worry, this Pope has testicles and they're there.
they're making light of it.
And everyone
you know?
responding, thank God.
Yeah. Okay, if they do use a chair, do you think they wipe it down after every pope, or is like the next pope gonna be sitting on it thinking like, I'm in like the sweat of like
No,
12
it's
popes
like
right now.
it's like mocha pots. It's like mocha coffee pots that you don't wash the coffee pot for years, and that makes the coffee taste better.
Of
It's a nice
course.
urban legend.
Of course.
Or you know how some urban legends say that tea kettles you're not supposed to wash them, and eventually you're able to just put water in them and it will taste like tea. It's that, but for popes.
The chair is marinated in the sweat and pubic hair of
Of
former
hundreds.
popes.
Imagine the cultural tradition occurs. Hundreds.
Oh, I know.
Hundreds of years of papal testicles, and that's why we do this podcast, Kurt.
That's what it's all for the Pope's testicle chair. Alleged testicle chair. Unconfirmed. testicle chair.
Unconfirmed testicle chair, which is my next cover band.
Oh, very cool.
Unconfirmed testicle chair. And that's it. That's what you got for me, Kurt. What's next in this wonderful storytelling? But before that, we're gonna ask everyone in our audience to cheers along with us. We just needed to take a quick little rebreather. We're enjoying our time together. I haven't seen this beautiful, beautiful man in years, and this is a joy to do again. So we're gonna continue.
It really is. It feels like old times, doesn't it?
It does feel like old times. It feels like we're sitting in our dingy college apartment, Kurt, with all mismatching furniture.
We're still the same idiots, and we still have way too much free time on our hands. But yeah, this is the kind of stuff we'd be talking about normally when we live together. Now we're just recording ourselves talking about testicle chairs and Pepsi's Navy.
Testicle chairs and Pepsi's Navy versus Alien versus Predator.
That's it. Versus Brown versus Board of Education.
Oh no! Could stop the podcast.
We gotta move. We gotta get out of here. Next story. Next story.
Next story.
This story is this one was ruled out again because it was one that you had already heard when I sent it to sample to see if it was a story you knew or not. This was given to me by our friend Jordan. Shout out Jordan.
Shout out Jordan. This one's for you.
This is a story of Wojtek the bear, who was the cutest little Polish soldier ever. So first, we have to go back to 1939.
Good year.
The USSR invaded eastern Poland. So after most people know that Germany invaded Poland, but just 16 days after that, the USSR invaded Poland from the east. So Poland kind of got split in half by Germany and the Soviets, and it was ultimately divided up and annexed between the two countries. In eastern Poland, at first the Soviets tried to take some steps to kind of absorb Poland into the USSR, but after some international pressure and some negotiations, they decided to let Poland remain in this sort of Commonwealth limbo. Basically, it's so that they can have access to the Polish army, because when they invaded, they imprisoned a bunch of civilians who were resistant and all the Polish soldiers, but it's still World War II right now, so they badly want the armed forces, so they'll let them be kind of their own puppet government so that the Polish army can reunite, which they do, and they're renamed the Polish Armed Forces of the East. They're also called Anders Army, who was just the kind of the top-ranking Polish general at the time. So this group of soldiers, plus all the civilians who had been POWs, they're released and reform into almost this big caravan of soldiers and civilians, and they're forced to leave the country. Their plan is that they're going to cross to Iran to meet up with the British Army in Egypt, and then they'll contribute to the war effort there. But for all intents and purposes, they're kind of a big group of civilians and soldiers who have lost their homes. I mean, not only has their country been invaded, but they've also been basically kicked out and decided to leave because it's the safest option for them. So by 1942, they're crossing through Iran. They're at a railroad station in Hamadan, Iran, and they meet a young Iranian boy with a bear cub whose mother had been shot by hunters. The soldiers,
wait. The bear cub was shot by hunters?
The mother.
The mother of the bear cub? So
Yes.
not the mother of the kid.
Not the mother of the kid.
Okay.
Well,
okay.
unknown about the mother of the kid.
Unknown about the mother
We only
of
have
the
confirmed details on the bear family. Oh, you're laughing over there, Louis. Very funny topic to you?
I don't know. I think this was just a fault of syntax.
Yeah, it is.
It's one of these syntax failures that cause wars, but for us, it causes comedy.
Some giggles.
Proceed.
Little giggle action.
Little giggle action.
Anyway, the soldiers think the bear cub is very cute, so they buy it from the young boy. They pay for it with an army knife, a tin of meat, and a chocolate bar. I'd like to throw out, I watched some informative stuff about this story and read some stuff, and somebody else commented that what if the young boy is just a hustler and has like a full farm of bear cubs and is selling them to every soldiers who come through for another army knife, tin of meat, and a chocolate bar.
I mean, this sounds like a 10-year-old's dream.
Yeah.
Right?
He's a hustler.
They just
Rise
got
and
a
grind, baby.
bunch of knives and chocolates. Not even accepting currency. I mean, if I was 10 years old, I'm like, don't pay me in what? Well,
That's true.
Don't pay me in cash. Pay me in chocolate and knives.
Yeah, that's the dream. I would take it still, honestly.
Yeah, to this
If I
day.
get a $15 minimum wage, how many knives and chocolate bars am I getting? Come on, dude.
I don't know. Give me cash. I don't know, $20 and a cigarette. I'm in.
Yeah. So the bear cub spends the next 3 months in a Polish refugee camp. In August, the bear is donated to the 2nd Transport Company, which is later renamed to be the 22nd Artillery Supply Company. So 22nd Artillery Supply Company is just a group of soldiers. They have this little bear cub. They name him Wojtek, which is short for Wojciech, which means happy warrior or happy soldier. So the name Wojtek is a diminutive of a longer name. And I think it's very cute. But to hear Wojtek in English, it sounds like a futuristic, all-powerful corporation like Skynet or something.
Hey, don't worry. Don't go that way. That area is owned by Wojtek.
Yeah. So I think I'm going to make the executive decision that for the purposes of me telling you this story, we should rename the bear cub. Okay. Allow me to take you back to a few years ago when we lived together.
Okay.
Do you recall, Luis, that we had a good few months where we played the video game Far Cry 5 together?
Oh, how could I forget? Yes.
Far Cry 5 is a video game where you try to stop a powerful doomsday cult that's taken over part of Montana. In the game, you can have various animal companions that help you fight. One of them is a mountain lion named Peaches, or a dog named Boomer, or a bear named, Luis, do you remember?
Cheeseburger.
Cheeseburger!
Oh, yeah. How could I forget Cheeseburger? There were nights in our apartment, if you were to walk down that wonderful street, where if the windows were open and we were playing that video game, you could very much hear us going, Cheeseburger!
Yeah, we would then and still would die for Cheeseburger.
That's true. So for the purposes of this story, Wojtek is now Cheeseburger?
Wojtek is now Cheeseburger.
That makes my heart
So
happy.
we can really appreciate the cuteness factor of this.
Thank God.
So, Luis, would you like to learn about Cheeseburger's life in the army?
Absolutely.
More than anything?
Oh, there's few things I want in this world more.
Initially, when he's still a bear cub, he has some problems swallowing, so they feed him condensed milk from an old vodka bottle. Love that image. Normally, Cheeseburger would eat fruit, marmalade, honey, or syrup. He would often be rewarded with beer, which quickly became his favorite drink.
We've all been there.
He also enjoyed smoking, or actually more often eating cigarettes, and he was known to drink coffee in the mornings with the other soldiers.
I love that there's that distinction. It's like he loved smoking. Don't worry, he did smoke. Even though he did eat the cigarettes most of the time, he did smoke them too.
Yeah, all of them I think he would eat sooner or later, but some he would take a couple puffs of and then swallow.
That doesn't even work.
Because apparently there was also a distinction for if they gave him an unlit cigarette, he would hold it in his mouth until someone lit it and then eat it. As Cheeseburger, he's got his own thing going on.
And they say animals are dumb.
He would sleep with the other soldiers on cold nights. He enjoyed wrestling with the other soldiers. He would chase oranges that they threw as part of their grenade practice. And they also taught him to salute when greeted. This is all when he's still a bear cub, by the way.
Wow. I still can't do any of those things.
That's true. Well, you could chase an orange if I threw it. I mean, I believe in you. I think you could do it.
You're so kind, Kurt. That's a lot of trust you're placing on me.
You do like being rewarded with beer.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, you're at least half as smart as this bear.
Half, at least. Yeah.
They also would do this very cute thing where when they were marching in the cold, they would take Cheeseburger and put him inside one of their jackets and button him up so he'd stay warm. Once he got bigger, he learned to march alongside the soldiers on his hind legs.
Okay.
So he loves them. They love him. He's kind of imitating them. They're his family. Cheeseburger was also known to get into quite a bit of mischief.
Nice.
On one occasion during a Christmas party, after consuming, quote, a significant amount of wine, Cheeseburger snuck into the food storage room and rifled through anything that he could find to eat. It seems like he specifically was looking for some jam, some strawberry jam.
Once
which
again,
was one of his
we
favorites.
have all been there.
We've all been there.
Listen.
Christmas party, have a significant amount of wine, end up just going through the pantry. In an Allied camp in Iraq, Cheeseburger stole a washing line of women's underwear, scaring them pretty badly. Another thing Cheeseburger enjoyed very much was showering with the soldiers. He pretty quickly learned how to turn on the water himself, which would often lead to water shortages.
Oh, Cheeseburger.
So they were forced to install a lock on the shower doors so that he couldn't go in anytime he wanted to
Just
shower.
for the bear.
But Cheeseburger was known to hang around outside in hopes of being let in. On one occasion, he found the door unlocked and went in only to discover an Arab spy who had snuck into the camp. The spy's screams of terror alerted the guards, and when they arrived, the spy immediately gave up the identities of himself and the others with him if the guards would save him from Cheeseburger. Afterwards, Cheeseburger was rewarded with some sweetmeats, a beer, and allowed to take an extra long hot shower.
An extra long hot shower for Cheeseburger.
He sniffed out the spies. He's great at his job.
Yeah, good for Cheeseburger.
He's a bear of resolve. Nothing will stand between him and a shower.
A bear of resolve is not a word, a combination of words that I thought I was going to hear.
What are you going to do?
But I'm glad I did.
We're on the forefront, the cutting edge of language.
That's true.
On one occasion later in his life, the soldiers were driving along the Italian coast. Cheeseburger jumped out of the truck that he was riding in the back of and began running towards the beach to swim. He scared some Italian girls who were relaxing on the beach, and a Polish soldier called out, "Girls, don't be afraid. The bear is good." Which, what are they going to do with that? What help does that do someone who is being charged at by a bear?
Yeah, what difference would it make if he said, "Girls, danger, the bear's bad.
He's going to kill you."
He's going to kill you. Yeah. I feel like either way at that point, you're not hearing what the soldier is saying. All you're seeing is bear.
Yeah. So that's the highlights of the mischief that Cheeseburger got into. There's a lot of other stories that are just kind of legends about Cheeseburger, because I'm sure, as you can picture, him being in the situation, there would be a lot of made up stories.
Oh, of course.
These are the ones that are the most verifiable. Cheeseburger did have one not so cute moment.
Oh, no.
So another Polish unit had a bear named Mikhail.
Okay, stop right there. How many Polish army units
This is
have
alarming,
bears?
because I'm not lying to you now.
It's like the thing that said if I had a penny for every single bear in a Polish unit, I'd have 2 pennies, but that's kind of weird that there's 2.
Strange amount. Yeah. It seems like from this time period, like World War II era and a little before, there was just a lot of battalions of soldiers having random animals as pets that would help a little bit. Yeah, it was kind of a trend for.
Wasn't there a penguin for the Danish army at one point too?
I don't know about it, but there probably was. Probably. There definitely was a bunch of dogs.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But anyway, this other Polish unit had a bear named Mikhail, who had a reputation for having a pretty violent temper. The 2 bears met when units were stationed in the same encampment by coincidence. I have a quote here about their meeting. As he approached Wojtek, aka Cheeseburger, Mikhail went into a berserker rage. Within seconds, the animals were enveloping each other in deadly bear hugs, slashing out with terrifying claws, and each trying to rip out each other's throat with fangs. When the dust settled, Wojtek, aka Cheeseburger, remained victorious, nearly snapping Mikhail's neck in the process.
Jesus Christ.
So Cheeseburger just said, let me turn on all the bear aggression I've never displayed before for 30 glorious seconds and snap this other bear like some celery. Mikhail did not die, but after that, they're like, okay, let's go ahead and separate them. Other than this isolated event, Cheeseburger never displayed any violent tendencies and never hurt anyone. So it seems like maybe just the other bear being aggressive towards him is what triggered it.
Okay.
But it is an interesting little detail to be reminded that all these cute stories about the bear got a little too wild at the Christmas party and got into the pantries. This is a killer animal.
Yeah, we have to remember this is a predator,
Yeah.
Like some could say an apex predator in the wild, right? Yeah.
In 1943, Anders' army finally united with the British forces in Egypt. Together, the plan was for them to continue to Italy to continue the Italian campaign. But one big problem with this was that British transport ships don't allow mascots or pets.
No.
Cheeseburger at this point weighs about 200 pounds, so there's no way they're going to sneak him onto the boat in someone's coat or something. So the Polish soldiers did the logical thing, which was to officially draft Cheeseburger into the Polish army as a private in the 22nd Artillery Supply Company.
Amazing. About time, really.
I know, right?
About time.
Cheeseburger received his own rank and paybook and serial number, and from then on he would either live in a tent with soldiers or in a wooden crate that was made specially for him.
That's just a happy ending, really.
Yeah, well, we're not at the end here, but this is, finally some recognition for Cheeseburger.
Yeah, seriously. For
He's
his
doing
service,
his part.
Support our troops.
Yeah.
Respect your troops.
Yeah.
Yeah, come on.
The most significant battle that Cheeseburger was a part of was the Battle of Monte Cassino. The 22nd,
Wow.
the 22nd Artillery Supply Company was loading crates of 25-pound artillery shells onto trucks to prepare for the battle. Cheeseburger saw the soldiers, and he also began picking up crates and carrying them to trucks. Most of the crates were heavy enough that it took 4 men to carry, but Cheeseburger is a big boy, so he does it by himself. One soldier noted that he had seen Cheeseburger carrying crates before. However, he was, quote, usually a lazy thing and looked for empty boxes to carry. But seeing the men struggling to hurriedly load the heavy crates, he joined in carrying crates weighing over 100 pounds by himself. I like the little detail that it would normally be empty crates.
Normally this man would pretend to work.
When you start getting this picture, Cheeseburger just has the spirit of someone permanently on vacation. He's drinking beer, getting into the food pantry. He sees the beach, he runs so he can go swimming. He's like, kind of faking his work. He's going to the bathroom on company time, He's doing minimal work and getting fed marmalade and chasing oranges and just having the time of his
Kurt,
life.
would you not do the same?
I would love to have the life
let's be
of
honest
Cheeseburger
here.
the bear.
Let's be honest here. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Go Cheeseburger.
It could be one of those nice, like, you wake up and all of the 21st century was a dream type things. Like, hey, did you see Chris Rock got punched by... You wake up. You're a bear. You're in the Polish army.
You wake up, you're a bear, you're in the Polish army. There's 5 pounds of jelly in front of you.
The concepts of the internet and Twitter are fading away slowly.
Oh my God. Could you imagine the field day that Twitter would have with Cheeseburger in the army?
Oh, man.
What if we got to see this currently in the Russian front?
Cheeseburger born in the wrong time.
Weren't we all?
Weren't we all?
Weren't we all?
If only we all could have been together in it with Cheeseburger.
If only.
After the battle, the reports of Cheeseburger carrying crates earns him a promotion to corporal.
Wow.
Imagine being someone who's a private in that army and you see the bear get promoted.
Are you kidding me that this bear just become a higher rank? Do I have to salute to this bear?
Do you have any idea how many crates I have carried and not been promoted? I spend every day of my life cleaning up marmalade this stupid bear leaves all over the floor. He used all the hot water.
My hands are permanently sticky. Jeez.
Yeah, but either way, I think Cheeseburger deserves it. I think they should have made Cheeseburger head of the operation, but that's just my opinion.
That's just my opinion. What if that turned out differently?
Hey, you never know. In addition to the promotion, a bear carrying an artillery shell is made the official emblem of the 22nd Artillery Supply Company. So there's a little flag with like a bear walking upright with an artillery shell on his shoulder.
Wonderful. Oh, that's lovely. I'm glad Cheeseburger will forever be recognized.
Glad he got his recognition.
AKA Wojtek.
AKA Wojtek. After the war, Cheeseburger ends up on a farm in Scotland for a while. He was known to attend dances and children's parties. And after a couple of years, he's transferred to the Edinburgh Zoo. Because of his popularity, he gets visited by tons of people, including journalists and some former Polish soldiers who served with him. A lot of the Polish soldiers will throw him cigarettes to eat. He apparently does this thing where if you salute him in like the Polish soldier format, he'll nod his head, which is saying like, I want a cigarette. And if you throw one to him lit, he'll eat it. So a lot of the soldiers who go, they salute Cheeseburger because they are like, we serve together. And then Cheeseburger will nod and they'll throw into the cage a cigarette for him.
Together. Imagine if you're just a zoo worker and this is the first time you see this. You just see a group of Polish men going in, saluting, and then lighting up a cigarette and throwing it at your bear.
Yeah, imagine you're just a zookeeper and you don't know who the bear is, like where he came from. And some old Polish men come in and they're like, a lot of us never came home from the war. We served together, Cheeseburger.
Glad you did, Cheeseburger. and then toss a cigarette, and then the zookeeper is just trying to go stop them, but
what
he
did
gets
we
stopped.
do, Cheeseburger? Good soldiers follow orders, Cheeseburger.
Oh no, he was just following orders, Cheeseburger. Oh my goodness. Oh man, what a time.
Yeah. Also, because of his popularity, Cheeseburger was a frequent guest on Blue Peter, which is a BBC program for children. So little TV star action too.
Yeah, he's done everything.
He's a real multifaceted icon.
Yeah, real man of the hour.
Yeah, he's a big mogul. Cheeseburger finally died December 1963 at the ripe old age of 21. When he died, he weighed nearly 1,100 pounds and was 6 feet tall. So you can picture the size of this bear that's just hanging out in the Polish army.
Big old bear.
There's at least 7 statues of Cheeseburger in Poland. There's at least 3 statues and a plaque dedicated to him in the UK. In 2011 in Poland, there was a parade in Cheeseburger's honor. And then there's been a lot of very interesting examinations of, while this story is really wholesome, it's got like this bittersweet mix of sadness and finding companionship in strange places that a lot of people have analyzed, because don't forget, this big caravan of soldiers and civilians were kicked out of their country, basically. They were forced to leave. And there's a lot of examinations of how their story kind of maybe paralleled Cheeseburger's story, of that they all ended up together in like this sort of misfit group. This is a quote I have that I want to end on. The most significant fact in the whole story of Wojtek the Bear, aka Cheeseburger, was that he was adopted by people who were also orphans in some way. They had lost their families, their homes, and their country, and there was no chance of returning to it. They didn't have anything or anyone to return to. The bear and the soldiers bonded because he had been abandoned like them.
Why am I crying?
I know, they really come for the pull on the heartstrings at
really,
the end
the
there.
jugular. Wow.
Yeah, it's brutal. Now you see why I was so sad when I didn't get to tell you this story, because all the highlights, we get a lot of cuteness factor.
Yeah,
we get to talk about Far Cry 5.
Yeah.
And then we get big vulnerable, big sad at the end.
There's all the highlights of a good episode of Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Well, Kurt, I think I have another story for you. I'm glad we got some chance to talk about Wojtek, aka Cheeseburger. But I'm gonna quickly end, and this one's not terribly long, not a long story, but it's a story that's just so, I don't know, it's so full of people messing up in big ways. Now,
every good historical story is.
Yeah, right.
Just a bunch of mistakes from start to finish.
And this story is actually not super historical, as in this is fairly recent memory when this happened, okay?
Oh, I thought you meant like it's not very verifiable. Like this, you're going to tell me your own fan fiction of
no.
the Roman Empire or something.
This actually happened, and this happened in the 60s, actually.
Okay.
1960s. Now, if you go to Mexico City, if you go to a concert in Mexico City, there's a good chance that you're going to go to the Autodrome Hermanos Rodriguez, the Brothers Rodriguez Autodrome. It's a racetrack. They have a lot of concerts there. It's just a known venue there. Now, this is named after two race car drivers, Mexican race car drivers, Pedro Rodriguez and his brother, Ricardo.
Okay.
So these are two very famous race car drivers, one of the first Mexican drivers to make it to the Formula One. And I think they were actually one of the very Mexican people that completed the Le Mans race, the Le Mans race, the 24-hour race. And they're actually really well known, or at least back in the day, they were hot celebrities. So, these are people that gave their lives to racing. But I'm going to, out of all of the different racing stories that I have of this man, the most important one is 1967, South Africa Grand Prix. Now, South African Grand Prix ended in 1993, so it's not a race that's run in the regular Formula One lap, but back in 1967, still being run. Now, Pedro Rodriguez, this man made around like didn't really make many pole positions, and he actually just won twice in Formula One. And this 1967 South Africa Grand Prix was the very first time he won a Formula One race, the very first time a Mexican driver had won Formula One Grand Prix.
Oh, big day for him.
The big day for Mexico. Now, this whole big day would be put aside by what happened next. Now, if you follow driving, Kurt, you know that there's specific countries that typically win. What countries do you think when you think of Formula One racing?
Well, that's the problem. I don't follow.
All right,
you have to tell me.
Well, I'll tell you. German.
I know bootleggers who race in NASCAR, and that's the extent of my racing knowledge.
All right. Well, in Formula One, the international race car drivers that typically win are German drivers, Italian drivers, sometimes Spanish. That's typically the big people that usually win these race cars.
That makes sense.
Races.
It seems like a very Europe-centric sport.
It is a very Europe-centric sport. But those are the big ones that win: Germans, Italians, etc.
Okay.
They had never had a Mexican win a Grand Prix.
Right.
I don't know. Again, you haven't seen really much Formula One, but at the end of a Formula One, if you get in the pole positions, so the top three, you get your anthem played.
Okay.
They play your anthem.
Okay.
And So if you're in first place, they will play the anthem of your country, which you're participating in. So Pedro Rodriguez, very excited, wins his first Grand Prix, wins the first Grand Prix for Mexico. And his brother had died. That was one of the dreams that his brother had back in the day, but he died in the racetrack, so he wasn't able to ever complete it. And so this is a very big, momentous day for Pedro Rodriguez.
Yeah, this is a big defining moment for him.
Exactly. But the Formula One drivers, Kurt, or the Formula One organizers in South Africa are saying, oh no, do you have a Mexican flag in the back? Do you oh, no, we don't have a Mexican flag. This is me recreating the conversation.
Right.
They could not for the life of them find a Mexican flag. And this is 1967 South Africa. How many Mexican flags are you going to have?
Right.
Of course, they had prepared German flags. They had prepared Italian flags because those are the teams that usually win. But what did this organizing group have? Not a Mexican flag. So they said, what flag do we have that is
another flag?
enough?
No.
What flag is similar enough to the Mexican flag that we could use? And they can't use the Italian flag. Everyone knows what the Italian flag looks like.
Right.
So what do they use? Take a guess. What flag do you think they use as the Mexican flag?
Oh, no. I don't even want to do this because it's so sad. Like, if it was me, I feel like... Well, okay, I would have cut up other flags and tried to put
make it, yeah.
But that might be worse because then like Mexico will be insulted, like you didn't have a flag, so you cut up other flags, and every other country who you cut up is going to be like, you just used us for
used our flags.
Your Formula One scrapbook.
Exactly. Well, I'll just tell you, they used an Irish flag for Mexico. It's because it's orange, white.
It's a bad idea either way, but that's it's pretty close, right?
Colors are similar enough. Like it's a shade of red, it's a shade of green, and it's white.
Right. The red is just different from the orange, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, okay. Well, maybe that's why I think it's so similar because I'm colorblind enough. They probably look like the same color to me.
Yeah, so it probably would have worked for people like you, Kurt. But for the rest of the world, they saw an Irish flag, and in particular, the third place was a British man. So of course he knew what an Irish flag,
sure.
right? And the other one his name was John Love. Second place was from Rhodesia, which in their flag has
another Rhodesia shout out.
Which in their flag it has a Union Jack. So these people knew what an Irish flag looks like, and okay, that solves that. The South African Formula One organizers are saying, bam, we're off the hook.
Problem solved. Close call.
And then
no one knows anything.
And then an intern runs in the room and says, guys, we have to play the Mexican national anthem.
Oh, I hadn't even considered that. There's no way they have it,
and they said, guys, if we didn't have the Mexican national Mexican flag, is there a chance we have a vinyl disc of the Mexican national anthem?
Oh, then
Once again,
trouble.
1967, South Africa. There's no Mexican national anthem on cue. So what do? Well, they, again, try to find the closest thing to this.
No, please don't attempt.
They put on the song... called Santa Fe by Bing Crosby.
Oh,
and in
known Mexican
Bing Crosby. And at one point in that song, it says, south of the border in Mexico.
That's all. That's the best.
That's the one mention of Mexico that they had in their vinyl collection, and they played that song to celebrate the first Mexican win at a Formula One race.
Picture this for me, Luis. Imagine you're in a big old Formula One stadium, and they're like, "Viva Mexico!" First time, the winner of Formula One, and they show the Irish flag, and now, ladies and gentlemen, the Mexican national anthem. I'm dreaming of a white Christmas.
Yeah, essentially. So you can imagine, I guess I can understand this, why all this mix-up happened, but at the same time, come on,
you were
have a little
so
decency.
much more of a forgiving person than me. Because just saying, technical difficulties, we're not doing the ceremony today, would have been better than any solution they could come up with.
Yeah.
What would you have done if you were in their spot?
I would have just not given anything. Just admit my mistakes.
Incorrect. incorrect, Luis.
What would you have done, Kurt?
No, what you had done. You're incorrect about
I'm
what you
incorrect.
would have done.
Oh.
You would have somehow drawn, pieced together a Mexican flag, and then you would have sang live the national anthem.
No, that's
and tried
true.
To wing it. That's
no, that's
totally
very
what you
true.
would've
Yeah,
done.
no, I would draw an actual picture of it.
Yeah.
My best attempt at a Mexican
Yeah.
flag. But
Artist rendition of Mexican flag.
yeah, put the disclaimer at the end. But that's kind of where the story ends. But this man, Pedro Rodriguez, every single time now that he traveled, he would travel with him a Mexican flag and a copy of the Mexican national anthem.
Oh, he said no excuses.
Alongside with a vial of chili sauce, of like salsa.
Nice.
Of hot sauce.
Nice.
Which, great. I mean, I'm glad you did.
The essentials.
The essentials. He did end up winning one more time in Formula One.
Okay.
But then he actually followed in his brother's footsteps. And in 1971, he died on a track in Nuremberg. So this was 1971. This was after the 1967 victory at the Formula One race. So, yeah. So he wasn't able to really win any more Grand Prix, but the one that he won, one of the ones that he won, was celebrated in such a way that they would get canceled right now. Like tonight, if this happened, this could only happen in 1967.
I was thinking that they're lucky that this didn't happen when Twitter existed.
Yeah, and they're lucky this man probably didn't like rise up any more hubbub, or that South Africa was far enough away at that point where no one in Mexico found out.
Yeah.
You know?
He was a good sport about it too. He was like, I'm just going to make sure I carry this stuff with me. It's part of his essentials, you leave the house, wallet, phone, keys, Mexican flag, Mexican vinyl disc, hot sauce, ready to rock, baby. Ready to hit the town.
Ready to hit the towns. But yeah, imagine just you're out there and just see the beautiful Irish flag, and you see
the sweet sultry
tones of Bing Crosby. And you say, man, today's a good day to be Mexican.
Can you imagine that they're like, so we've found the closest thing we can to the Mexican national anthem. And if I'm the supervisor, I'll be like, okay, who sings it? And they say, Bing Crosby, crossed out, rejected right there. No, known Mexican cultural name, Bing Crosby.
Yeah, I'll stop you at Bing.
Yeah, that's plenty enough.
You don't have to go farther than Bing. So this guy are now the names of one of the biggest autodromes in Mexico, one of the biggest racetracks in Mexico.
That's good. So he finally got his record.
Yeah. He died on the track again. He gave his life to the track, but yeah, it's a bit of a wild story.
Yeah,
south of the border.
A little bit lucky maybe that it was South Africa that did it, because they're not in the public eye a ton where like people will be likely to bring it up. If it was Britain, we would have known about it, I bet. Britain is never going to live that one down.
And then again, Kurt, I mean, you have to realize that I don't think 1967 most people cared about Mexico.
That's true.
Yeah. Some could say that to this day, most of the world looks at Mexico in a very derisive way.
What are the odds if another Mexican racer wins the Formula One? They bring back out the Irish flag.
Well, it's great. I'm glad you say that, because now we have a Mexican racer in the Formula One currently, Sergio Perez, and he has won a couple times, and they have not. I can confirm this. They have not brought out the Irish flag.
The old ways die.
The old ways die. The old guard.
Yeah, the old guard.
The old guard dies in favor of a new revitalized guard. But that's my story, Kurt. It was a short one, but I think it was worth telling. And that's why I wanted to share
short and sweet.
Yeah, short and sweet. And I wanted to share it with the unbelievable crowd because, I mean, can you believe it? Really, seriously,
I can't. That's unbelievable.
That's unbelievable.
Roll credits now.
Roll credits. Roll credits. Oh my god.
Well, Luis, this has been very nice to have no competition, no emotional manipulation, no Paul LaRue's for a recording session.
Deliberation.
No deliberation, even.
Which, as much as we like doing this podcast, we always feel terrible at the end of it, where we have to discredit the other.
Yeah.
One
of us feels terrible.
One of us feels terrible, and the other one's laughing. It's great, which is essentially, I think, a nice resumed narrative of our living together situation.
Yeah, but much like it's been really nice and brings back a lot of nostalgia to be hanging out with you here together again. It's been very nice to have a podcast episode where we're just here to talk about some weird stories,
some things we like. Yeah.
And next episode, we shall resume the bloodshed.
Yeah, next episode. Now that I don't have you nearby, I'm going to punch you.
Renew
through
the
screen.
subscription of our restraining orders.
Excuse me, Your Honor. Please restamp this.
This is the unbelievable podcast version of when the World War I soldiers played soccer on Christmas Eve. We've called the ceasefire.
Ceasefire for 1 day and 1 day only. Yeah.
Next time it's back to me trying to make you cry, you trying to make my brain melt.
And I think that's just
what
love. We need. And that's love. And that's love. Thank you, everyone, for listening to Unbelievable Podcast. We're going to get to the end of the episode with that one. Thank you for joining us on this very special episode. Thank you, Kurt, for being next to me in this special episode. We're holding hands right now, for those that can't see. You can find us on all different social media platforms, on Twitter at UnbelievablePC, on Instagram at UnbelievablePod. We're also on Podchaser. Just look up Unbelievable with Kurt and Louise. That's us. And you can find us on Google, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, really. Search for us. You will find us. And share it along if you'd like it. We have a lot of fun doing this. This special episode in particular, it's all because of the support that we have seen for the last several episodes we have.
Yeah.
And we really appreciate it. So hopefully we get to tell you some more stories. And if we don't, well, we'll be sad. And you don't want that, don't you? Anyway, thank you for listening for Unbelievable. Sincerely, from the bottom of my hearts, thank you. My name is Luis, joined by wonderful Kurt Danner. I'll see you later.
Bye-bye, everyone.